Hello everybody and welcome into the Sports Mandate. I'm John Hand.
I'm TJ Horgan wearing a tie with baseballs on it in case you couldn't see that.
Very stylish tie, I love it. We have an exciting show for you planned today. We're going to reflect on the Pats season that it was, talk a little bit about the Super Bowl coming up, and we had an exciting opportunity to go into the NESN studios and talk to Gary Striewski about the Red Sox, and that was a super cool experience.
Definitely, thanks a lot to those guys.
Yes, big thank you out to NESN. You know, you go into that studio, you see them on, you know, post game and pre game, and then you're in the studio like,
yeah, it was pretty.
Whoa,
cool.
This is crazy.
Definitely.
But before we get to all that stuff, let's talk about what's going on in your town.
Most
TJ,
definitely.
What's going on with high school sports in Burlington?
High school sports will start off with BHS girls hockey. They're 6-4-1, 4-4-1 in the Middlesex League. However, 5 of their 6 wins were won by at least 5 points. So this team is a little bit better than their record shows because they're just blowing teams out in some games. But if they hope to make the playoffs, they have to win a lot of their games going forward. BHS boys hockey, 6-1-4. So they only have 1 loss, and that was to Reading. But Reading is just 1 game above 500 this year. Burlington, 5 of their 6 wins are against Division I opponents. They're tied for 9th in win percentage this year. Out of 54 Middlesex Division I teams, they're tied for 9th. Additionally, they're tied for 7th in terms of least points against out of 54 teams. So new goalie Mike Gulasarian is stepping up, filling the big shoes that he needs to. Also, there's a core group of sophomores who've been leading the team. Robbie McLean and Tom Hannafin both have 4 goals, and then Anthony Nicolopoulos, the surprise sophomore, 10 goals this season. Those kids lead the team in goals. 3 sophomores up there. In addition to that, Rob McLean also leads the team in assists with 8 of them. Their next game is this Saturday against Belmont. So the Burlington hockey team looks to have a decent chance at making the playoffs. As I mentioned, 9th in win percentage out of 54 Division I teams. BHS boys basketball, they're 5-5. They're playing right now against Winchester. We'll have an update on how that's going. But Shane Farley, captain, senior, scored his 1,000th point, leads that team in points and assists. Christian Mornowick, another captain, leads in rebounds. Mike DeMartinez, the freshman, is getting lots of playing time, and Matt Dignan, the senior big man, making some of his outside shots, playing really well, scoring some points. He's getting more time because Mickey Lyons, the senior, is injured. Girls basketball, they're 4-5. They're very injured. They have 1 healthy junior on the team and 1 senior on the team. So 2 upperclassmen playing for them right now. All their injuries are knee injuries, so that's certainly going to be adversity to overcome. Michaela Mazur, the junior, she has 124 points scored this year. She's leading the team in that category, of course. Coach Pam Capola, happy with the team's ability to fight out of a deficit and also to play smart when they're ahead in big games. Coach Capola said, "I would rather play hard and lose than play poorly and win." So that says something about their character and how much effort they've been putting in this season. How about you, John? What do you think, Reading? What do you think about Reading this year?
So I'm going to start off with the boys basketball program right now. They are 3-5 overall, 3-3 in the Middlesex League, and that needs to change if this team wants to win the Middlesex League and do something in the tournament. They have coming off a loss to Woburn. They just snuck by Winchester, and they suffered they lost a winnable game to Arlington earlier this season. So those are Middlesex League games they need to really win definitively if they want to go on. This team needs a lot of improvement. They're not playing good team basketball right now, but they have a good, strong group of players, seniors like Drew Belcher and Liam Keneally, who are both good leaders. Belcher's a dominant center. So they have the pieces to pull this thing together and salvage what is left of the season.
So what do you think? Is there a specific area that you think they need to improve upon to, gain momentum going forward?
I really think team play is the key here. They sometimes will play a little individually, and if they can bring it together and really play better as a team, they'll be able to do more in the coming games. For the girls team, they're 4-5 overall. They've had some tough tests this year. They've really played good basketball, and you're not going to have a stellar season when you lose your best player in the state and your best player on the team in Olivia Healy last year. So coming off that, high expectations, you expect Reading girls basketball to always be dominant, but they lost a very good player in Olivia Healy. They lost Morgan O'Brien, who was out last year with an ACL injury, but was an important part to the team in years past. So this is kind of, I hate using the word rebuilding, but it is a little bit of a rebuilding phase. But they still have some good seniors on this team, and they'll be able to be in the contention for the Middlesex League. Woburn is a really good girls team this year. They're 10-0, I believe, on the year. So girls basketball will hang in there.
Definitely.
Moving to the ice rink, boys hockey, as you mentioned, they beat Burlington earlier in the year by a definitive score.
Yeah.
But since then, they have been on the decline. They're 6-5-2 right now. They're just one game above 500. Their last game against Hingham, they gave up three third period goals to lose the game 4-3. Yeah. That hurts. Coach Mark Doherty was not too happy about that one. He liked the effort his team gave, but I mean, no coach is going to be happy with 3 third period goals.
No, definitely not.
This team needs to improve. They have the talent there. Mike Thompson is an elite player in the Middlesex League, an elite player in the state.
Right.
He can skate. He's got good stick handling. He has all the tools. But right now, what's hurting this team is penalties.
Yeah.
They average about 5 a game, and
Yikes.
Coach Mark Doherty has said that he likes this team 5-on-5, not 4-on-5 when they're down a man. So if they can stay out of the box, they will be a much more productive team.
Yep.
They also, an issue this year has been leadership. When they're down in some of these games and when they're kind of sliding, there's no one there to quote, this is a quote from Mark Doherty, grab the bull by the horns and say, guys, wake up, we need to play better hockey right now. And if they can't get that, you know, it's going to be a struggle from here on out, but they do have good seniors on the team. Rob DiLoretto was a football captain as well as a hockey captain. Mike Thompson's another captain, with Jake Barbera.
Right.
So we'll see if they can dig it out. They're still in contention with the Middlesex League. They have a good overall Middlesex League record.
Definitely.
So we'll see what they do in the coming games. Moving to the girls team. On this show, earlier this last month, I said this team can make a deep run in the state tournament, maybe win a state championship. Now, here on this show right now, I'm going to tell you, this team has a legit shot at a state championship.
All right.
Mark my words. Remember this date, because this is a good team.
Nice.
We thought earlier they're maybe a little young. Allie O'Leary, Caroline Seabold, Kayla St. Pierre. Those are young players. Maybe they need just one more year before they can get to that elite level. They are elite now.
Wow.
This is a solid all-around team. They're coming off huge wins against Woburn and Acton Boxborough, 2 of the top 5 teams in the state. MassHShockey.com has them ranked as the best team in the state.
Nice.
ESPN Boston has them as the second best team in the state, although I think they should be number 1. But we'll talk about Brendan Hall about that.
Yeah, we'll give B. Hall a shout out.
But they have solid goaltending from Kayla St. Pierre. That top line with Allie O'Leary, Rachel Thompson, Tori Grimmer is
And so what year is Kayla St. Pierre?
Kayla St. Pierre is a sophomore.
She's a sophomore. So you think going forward she could be one of the best goalies in the Middlesex League?
No doubt about that. And going forward, this team will continue to be an elite team because their core is made up of juniors and seniors. They've been together for a while. Keep your eyes out for this team. They're going all the way this year.
All right, let's talk some football now. We'll move on to some NFL football. We had some crazy action this weekend. We had the New England Patriots, your New England Patriots, not mine because I'm a Falcons fan, but your New England Patriots going down to the Denver Broncos. In addition to that, the San Francisco 49ers, led by Colin Kaepernick, also went down to the Seattle Seahawks and their 12th man in a pretty memorable Richard Sherman post-game rant, but we'll get to that later. All right, so John, give us your quick predictions.
For the Super Bowl, I like the Seahawks 24-20 over the Broncos. This game is really going to come down to the Seahawks D versus Peyton Manning. And I think if Peyton Manning can run up the score against the Seahawks, that's going to put them in trouble because Russell Wilson I don't see as a quarterback who can come back from a deficit. And that's largely in part because he's a game manager. He hasn't really had that big plays yet where he's needed to pick his team out of a hole and bring him back. You know, he's had a few here and there, but he isn't really known for that. So I really think this Seahawks D, which is one of the best in the league, needs to be able to contain Peyton Manning. The problem here is Peyton Manning will pick apart defenses here and there, and he has time to prepare for this game. Obviously, the Seahawks have time to prepare for Peyton Manning, but Peyton Manning is motivated. This could be his last hurrah. I wouldn't be surprised if he retired after the Super Bowl.
This game is, I think, the most anticipated game of the season. Everyone talks about how good the Seahawks defense is, how elite they are, the Legion of Boom, that's secondary. Then everyone talks about Denver as being the best offense in the NFL, and I truly think they are the best offense in the NFL, and Seattle is the best defense in the NFL. They go head-to-head, and this is going to be a great Super Bowl. It is, honestly. I mean, but on another note, everyone talks about Richard Sherman as being one of the best cornerbacks in the game. He is, undoubtedly. 17 passes defended this year. That's down from last year. However, with 16 passes defended, just one less than Richard Sherman, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie a Denver Broncos cornerback. They did lose Chris Harris. They're not playing with Von Miller. They're not playing with Champ Bailey. But Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, if he stays healthy this game, he can be an elite option for them. He can stop Russell Wilson from throwing the ball. Russell Wilson this season, 43 pass attempts. Peyton Manning, 79.
Well, I have Richard Sherman as my key to the player in this game. He's a physical specimen. At 6'3", he has got that huge wingspan and can swat any ball away. And after the NFC Championship, like you mentioned earlier, he's talking the talk, but he can walk the walk too.
He can.
And I think that if you can stick Richard Sherman out there, you can stay with their top threat like a Demaryius Thomas and just take him out of the game.
Right.
That changes the game. We look at this Patriots-Broncos game. Aqib Talib's healthy in this game. It's a whole different ball game.
Yep.
It's completely different. And if you have that one shutdown corner for the whole entire game, it changes the whole dynamic of your defense. You're able to do so much more. You can blitz because you can trust that Richard Sherman will take care of his man. You don't have to double up or anything like that.
Right.
And another thing is something to watch, maybe, may not. Richard Sherman is strong on the right side of the field. He has 2 interceptions on the year. And Peyton Manning is, believe it or not, a little weak on the right side of the field. He has thrown 3 interceptions to the right side this year.
Right.
So maybe something to keep an eye on in this Super Bowl.
So solution for that, throw Demaryius Thomas on the left side, see what happens. I have my player of the game. Well, I'll get to that in a sec. I'm going to give you a little bit of a prelude here. Marshawn Lynch has 50 attempts this year. This playoff season. 50 attempts in 2 games, rushing attempts. 5 yards per carry. Ridiculous. He is going beast mode this playoffs. 50 attempts, 5 yards per carry. He leads everyone in the playoffs this year with 50 attempts, including people who have played 3 games, such as Frank Gore and LeGarrette Blount. Marshawn Lynch in 2 games has the most rushes in the playoffs, all of the NFL playoffs. However, Noshawn Marino is 3rd in rushes in the NFL playoffs. Peyton Manning is 1st in passes in the NFL playoffs. That can only mean one thing. The Broncos have the ball so much. That's why they're winning these games. They have the ball. No team can stop them from having the ball. But I think the Seahawks can. The Seahawks have that defense. What they need to do, they need to pick apart Peyton. They can't let Peyton pick apart them. They need to stop Peyton, whether it's forcing a 3 and out right off the bat. Give it to Marshawn Lynch. He's my player of the game. What do you do when you want to milk the clock and keep the ball? You run it. Marshawn Lynch needs to succeed if the Seahawks want to win this game.
There's no doubt that Marshawn Lynch is an elite running back. He's done it for many years now. My only problem is that the one strength of the Broncos D is against the run.
Right.
They don't have the strongest passing defense. People tend to pass all over them. I mean,
right.
Tony Romo shred them up. And I do think Marshawn Lynch will be able to get around the guys on the Broncos defensive line, but that still is their strength. So I think that he will be stopped a little bit, and I think that's something they'll key in on. I really think they're going to want Russell Wilson to throw the ball here.
See, what we saw last game was Terrence Knighton from the Denver Broncos, defensive lineman. He was in there totally screwing up every single play. But I think you'd agree with me here, and let me know if you don't. The Denver Broncos offensive line is significantly better than the Seattle Seahawks offensive line is significantly better than the New England Patriots offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, they have a strong offensive line. The Patriots offensive line has been injured this year.
Right,
so
exactly.
I think
that's the point. Because of injuries, as we stand now, Seattle has a better offensive line. I think with a better O-line, they can get Marshawn Lynch close to those 5 yards per carry.
Yeah, and I think Marshawn Lynch is a little bit better of a back than LeGarrette Blount.
Right,
even though he was coming in hot, and he was a ton of fun to watch this year. But
right, no doubt.
He is a better back overall.
All right.
But talking about the Patriots is a perfect segue into our next episode. I want to reflect a little bit on this season that it was, and I think people here in New England take for granted that for the past 13 football seasons, their New England Patriots have ended the year with a winning record.
Absolutely.
Just think about that for a second. That is incredible.
Yeah.
I can't in no other
sport.
spoiled.
They're spoiled.
It's unbelievable. They've made it to the AFC Championship now 3 years in a row.
Right.
And the fact that they made it to the AFC Championship this year is just unbelievable. Names like Gerard Mayo, Vince Wilfork, Brand Spikes, Rob Gronkowski, Tommy Kelly, Aqib Talib. I mean, he basically wasn't there in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, you're right.
Sebastian Vollmer. were all
out
Pro Bowlers, and they didn't play with them, and they still made it to the AFC Championship.
I mean, people...
It's incredible.
Bill Belichick has to be in the talking for Coach of the Year this year. It doesn't... How do you put this together? It just doesn't comprehend. Give any other coach this lineup, I want to see who succeeds. Who brings their team to a conference championship with this lineup, and that's injured. I mean, there is no other option for Coach of the Year. I mean, you have a few guys, Andy Reid, maybe Chip Kelly in the conversation, but Bill Belichick is my Coach of the Year.
He should be. I mean, the Patriots have shown a formula to win to build a championship franchise. You get an owner who's committed to the team. You get a good coach and a good quarterback. That is a formula for success. They put money in depth and not on star value.
You're right.
And look at the results. It's absolutely incredible if you go through some of the stats.
You said they put money in depth and not star value. Into next year, I have always thought the Patriots' frugality played to their advantage. This year, I think the Patriots are going to need to spend some money. They're going to need to spend a little bit of money. There are some top-notch free agents out there. If Bob Kraft goes without signing a top-notch free agent this year, I'm not even a Patriots fan. I'm going to be pretty upset. Like, it's getting to a point where they're just being stingy now.
Right. At this point, he does need to spend some of that money he's saved over the year and some of the money Bill's made him as he goes to all these Super Bowls and stuff like that. I really think they need a shutdown cornerback. Maybe it's Talib, but I don't trust his health.
I'll tell you who it is. It's Alteron Werner. He is one of the best cornerbacks in the National Football League. He is a free agent this year. If they're not going for Alteron Werner, then they better trade up for some draft picks and hope that Darquez Dennard does something.
I want the veteran cornerback. I don't want to wait 2 years for this guy to develop. I want a cornerback who can step onto the field for the New England Patriots and be an impact right away.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, that defense looks solid right now because you'll have your linebacking quarterback with Gerard Mayo and Dante Hightower. Now you add a good cornerback, and you have your safety with Devin McCourty, and your D line with Vince Wilfork.
It's solid, but they're going to need some draft help this year. They're going to scout, as they always do. They need to scout an under-the-radar defensive tackle. They probably aren't going to go high up, trade some picks up for a defensive tackle. I'd like to see them go with an under-the-radar defensive tackle. In addition to that, maybe look at a guy. I said this sort of when I saw him play in Arizona in one of the bowls, Kadeem Carey from Arizona. He declared for the draft. He's a running back who I think the Patriots could look at. People say Stephen Ridley is their franchise back. They don't have a franchise back. Stephen Ridley gets tossed every time he fumbles the ball. Kadeem Carey is a bit of a speed agility guy, but mixed carry with Blunt, that could be a recipe for success.
See, I don't see them messing around with running back. I think it's not the time right now where they could really worry about that. A defensive tackle I think they could look at is Rashid Hagman, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, from Minnesota. Looks like a defensive end, plays defensive tackle, 6'6", 311, comes off the edge, speed, explosion, complete package, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go after a quarterback in a late round, maybe an A.J. McCarron.
Hopefully, maybe they could see that. But right now, we're going to toss to our interview we did. Gary Striewski, huge shout out to him. Huge shout out to Gary Roy, NESN, letting us go in, and also Andrew Oak, one of their production assistants. He did a great job helping us.
Super nice guy.
Thanks to those guys.
So right now we are inside the NESN television studios, and sitting beside me is Gary Striewski. Gary, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to sit down and talk with us.
Thanks for nailing the last name.
Yeah, no problem. Second time's a charm, right?
For sure.
So Gary, why did you get into broadcasting?
Well, I'll tell you. Way back when I was about your guys' age. Now, I was actually the morning announcement guy in my middle school, 6th grade, way back in the day, back home in Colorado, and I would basically just read off what was for lunch, and for some reason, I got a thrill out of it, and then I was able to interview my teachers. Tell you one story. There was a Colorado women's football league, professional football league, the Colorado Valkyries, right? They had full contact, everything. And my science teacher was an offensive lineman for the team.
Wow.
So I interviewed her. She was my first sit-down interview. I interviewed her in front of the whole school on TV during the morning announcements, and I was like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. And since my athletic prowess kind of stopped after high school, I figured, hey, if I'm not going to get paid to play, might as well get paid to sit down with the athletes. So I kind of got the bug right there in 6th grade when I was able to, talk to her.
So the Red Sox team from last year, the World Series team, I'd say a majority of it is carried over, obviously, except for Steven Drew, Jacoby Ellsbury, those being the biggest names. However, and Salty too. However, is there a certain position or a weakness you see on the Red Sox that basically is an imminent weakness and you see them needing to address?
I don't know if it's going to be a weakness, but I think everybody that you ask is going to say the left side of the infield, right? Because you got Xander, who's a rookie, who came on like a freaking beast last year. Everybody's happy with that, but you got to think, I guess, to use an analogy, right? The Red Sox, they don't necessarily need this major player to come in here and change things up. Because if you look at him as kind of a vehicle, right? They have the body. They have the driver, John Farrell's coming back. He's kind of the guy that pushes the car. They got their engine, which is Poppy, right? He's the guy that kind of gets things going. So they lose a couple guys at Jacoby. So say they got a flat tire, right? So they replaced Jacoby with a Jackie Bradley, the guy that steps up. So it's more of detailing that vehicle as opposed to a complete overhaul. And I think, you know, if Xander steps up in that left side of the infield, and then that shortstop position, whether he transitions over there or, you know, Middlebrooks becomes that everyday third baseman guy, I think that's kind of just the area of the field that I think most fans would say, hey, we should probably put a little bit more emphasis on this.
You mentioned that is maybe could be the weaker part of this team. Do you see the Sox going out there and giving Steven Drew that contract that he is looking for?
I don't know, man. That's a Scott Boras question. No, I think, do you kind of go with the guys that you have in your system? I was actually at the rookie program earlier today. I know catcher's not a weakness. I mean, you know, they're bringing in guys on for short-term deals because they have a couple guys in their system that they can picture as being. Yeah. I talked to him earlier today, and then Swihart. Those guys. So you know, in the next couple of years, catcher should be solidified.
Right.
But the market, I mean, what does the market bear in terms of those shortstops, right? Yeah, would it be great if we can snag Troy Tulowitzki from the Colorado Rockies? Yeah, you're going to have to pay him, and I don't necessarily think the Red Sox are going to, you know, ante up those major 5-6-year deals worth $120 million, which is something that he got in Colorado. So I think at this point, it's, you know, work with what you have, and then if something makes itself available that makes sense for the team financially, immediately, and for the future, maybe go after it.
Right, and you mentioned with Swihart and Vasquez, do you think the catcher position can be solidified in the next few years? When you say solidified, do you mean a top-notch catcher, maybe top 10 catcher 3 years from now, or do you just mean an everyday starting catcher?
Yeah, I think so. Everyday starting catcher. I was talking to Ben Crockett, the player development director, and that's what he was saying was that, you know, a lot of these players that they're bringing through this rookie program, it's not just to send them through the motions, it's because they legitimately think that they can contribute to the big league level.
Right.
Maybe it's not next year, but within the next 2 or 3 years. And he brought up Xander Bogaerts and Brandon Workman, guys that, you know, didn't necessarily play crucial roles, but as early young guys coming in and making huge impacts in a Game 6 of a World Series or any World Series game. Yeah, I think so, and that's why the Przinskis get the 1 or 2 year deals while these guys kind of polish their craft a little bit raw because they're young. But if you can work these guys up in the next year or two, then yeah, you can have yourself an everyday serviceable catcher. And fortunately for the Red Sox, they don't have just one option. They have 2 guys to choose from. Potentially and hopefully one of those guys pans out in the next 1 to 3 years.
Definitely.
Well, Gary, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to let us invade your studio and talk some sports. This was a lot of fun.
Cool, man.
Thanks,
guys.
Much.
Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Oh, man.
Welcome back to the Sports Mandate. Hope you liked that peek of the interview. We'll have that whole interview for you in another video. Thanks to Gary Striewski again for that.
Just a quick note on that interview. He says, you got my name right the second time. I completely bombed his name the first time. I completely messed it up. I'm sorry about that. Gary Striewski. I couldn't get it right in my mind, and I just botched it.
We're going to go to a little segment we like to call 30-second story. This is when we give each other the weirdest news story of the week that we haven't heard about. 30 seconds to comment on it. All right, John, this one's coming from Huffington Post. A family in Dora, Alabama, their house got TP'd, sort of a normal antic, shenanigans. Their house got TP'd to take down the toilet paper. They burnt it. They decided, let's burn the toilet paper. The toilet paper was on their house got set on fire because they burned the toilet paper. 30 seconds, your reaction.
I want to know if they got insurance money.
Yeah.
Like, is that, whose fault is it? Like, it's not like it's a random fire here. You burnt down your house. But, I mean, were they looking for the lucky leaprecon, or were they trying to get rid of the toilet? But just burn down the neighborhood, maybe we'll find the leprechaun or something.
Who knows?
I mean, that's just nuts. I mean, how long does it take to take down a few rolls of toilet paper?
How many Alabama residents does it take to de-toilet paper a house?
Like, you know, an afternoon, not even. Yeah. You can just go out there, take down the toilet paper, and you know what? Around here, I don't know why they do it in Alabama,
all right,
but it's usually a celebratory thing. You make the varsity team, here's some toilet paper. Like, they just weren't happy.
All right.
Well, my story comes from Yahoo.
Yahoo.
So Jamaica has produced one of the premier summer Olympians in the history, Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the Jamaican Winter Olympics team seems to go together about as well as Jamaica. Jamaica and snow don't go together, is what the article is trying to say. I'm not going to read it so fast for you. But basically, their bobsled team qualified for the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia.
Yeah.
And it's the first time since 2002. But they don't have enough money. So right now, they're trying to go out and raise some money. One of their pilots is a 3-time Olympic Games, just came out of retirement to be in the Jamaican bobsled team. Yep. They need at least $80,000. They have a website going right now. They have $15,000 as of the other day. There's 8 days remaining in the campaign.
Yeah.
TJ, what is your reaction to the Jamaican bobsled team?
As disappointing and anticlimactic as this is, I did hear about this story. I was in my search for writing the water cooler headlines. I looked at ESPN and saw this. I was honestly kind of shocked because, I mean, how many ice sculptures and, you know, ice tubes do they have in Jamaica where they can practice
Where do
bobsled?
they train? Yeah.
Do they just go up to Canada? Were they born in Jamaica? Do they deport Jamaican-born kids to Canada for the bobsled team? I don't know how this works. But, I mean, good for them. Good for them for raising the money, but it's still a little crazy. That's 30 seconds. All right. We're moving on to your water cooler headlines. These are the things you'll need to know if you're talking to your colleagues around the water cooler this week. The Seahawks and Broncos will face off in Super Bowl 48, representing the only 2 states in the nation where marijuana is legalized for recreational use. You could say the fans smoking Super Bowls will be watching their team in the Super Bowl.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, Richard Sherman verbally attacked San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Michael Crabtree in an instant classic post-game rant. After seeing the clip, Aaron Hernandez responded, "Whoa, man, calm down."
Former Chicago Bull Dennis Rodman checked into an alcohol rehabilitation center not long after his recent visit to North Korea, celebrating the birthday of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. This story begs the question, what potentially relationship-severing decisions did Dennis Rodman make while he was drunk in North Korea to make him finally realize it might be time to stop drinking?
Like, honestly, what though? Like, 7 companies in Omaha, Nebraska have donated $700 for every Omaha call Peyton Manning made during the AFC Championship game, totaling $24,800. Said starving children everywhere, Omaha! Omaha!
Vancouver Canucks head coach John Tortorella has been suspended 15 games following his charging at the Calgary Flames' locker room in between periods. The Canucks front office doesn't seem too fazed, as they knew that last name was bound to come with a few high-tempered ejections. Tortorella. I could say that, I'm half Sicilian.
A historically high 98% underclassmen have declared for the NFL draft. This newest challenge poses a big question to Bill Belichick's draft day strategy. How many 7th rounders can I get this year?
All right, thanks a lot. That'll be it for us. For John Hand, I'm TJ Horgan. Glad you watched.